For this video, you are going to learn about the three different colonial regions that the colonies were broken up to, and you're also going to learn about the major industries within each region that made each colony or region successful. So by now you guys should know that there are 13 original colonies. We've covered Virginia, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, but we still have all the other colonies that you see here to cover. So we're going to go through each region, and then tomorrow when you guys get to class, we're going to get into each colony like Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, in a lot more depth than what you're going to get during this video. So here's the breakdown, the three different regions that I was talking about. In the New England region, you have Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. In the middle colonies, you have New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And in the southern colonies, you have Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, and then finally Georgia. These are the 13 original colonies. The four New England colonies that we just mentioned before had long winters, they had thick forests, and they had rocky soil. So it wasn't necessarily that great of soil to actually plant cotton or tobacco. So they focused primarily on fishing and trade to make their money and to become successful. Since the fishing industry was growing in the New England region, that also led to an increase in other industries like barrel making, sail making, metalworking, shipbuilding, lumbering. In order to actually learn these skills, people would become apprentices. An apprentice is when you actually learn from a master worker and you learn how to make a barrel, or you learn how to make a ship from someone that's trained in that specific industry. The middle colonies were a little bit more diverse than the New England colonies. You had the Dutch that settled New York, New Jersey, and Delaware, and then you had the Germans that were over in Pennsylvania, and we'll talk about that in more depth tomorrow. But these were basically farmers that were exporting grain. So we're talking about wheat, barley, and rye. And this became known as the breadbasket colonies, these four middle colonies that we're talking about. Now in the South is where you have all those plantations, the large farms that we were talking about. Tobacco is their number one industry, rice, indigo, cotton. They have rich soil, they have the warm weather for it, so it became prime to have huge farms with a ton of slaves working on them in order to make money. So let's compare commercial to subsistence farming. Commercial farming is where you're basically farming for profit. It's not just about for survival for you and your family, but it's about making money. And the plantations in the southern colonies would use the slave labor to make money. And we're talking primarily about tobacco during this time. On the other hand, if you're not necessarily farming for profit, you're farming for consumption of the farmer and your family. So it's for survival purposes. You're not doing it to make a ton of money, and it's not your only source of income. Many of these farmers did not own slaves to work on the fields. If they did have slaves, it'd be more for housework or to assist them in other industries, not necessarily for farming. So for this short video, you should be able to answer the following three questions. Are you able to break down the 13 colonies into each particular region? So if I say, what are the four middle colonies, can you list them for me? What are the New England colonies or the southern colonies? What major industries are within each colony or colonial region? So what was popular in New England or in the middle and the southern colonies? And then finally, what's the difference between the two types of farming that we just talked about at the very end? Make sure that you answer your blog, and I will see you guys tomorrow in class.